Struggling to earn 3 stars at Town Hall 17? Well, these are the 5 best attack strategies you can use to 3-star any base. Kicking us off at number 5 is the newly buffed Meteor Golems. They are pretty strong here at Town Hall 17, especially when you don't have to deal with a Town Hall Guardian. We're going to be starting off though with the Dragon Duke, as we're going to be using his Flame Blower and Rocket Backpack to clear excellent value. Just under 1 Earthquake spell, we can use the Flame Blower's damage to clear plenty of defenses and buildings. With the Archer Queen, we're also able to not only set up funneling, but also clear any air defenses while we're using our baby dragons. The goal here is to have the Meteor Golems alongside the throwers with the Grand Warden to actually start working into the base. While they already just hop over walls themselves, we want to make sure that we're using wall breakers to get the throwers in to provide additional support. This is why we also have the Barbarian King to also help set up funneling, and we even have the Troop Launcher to provide additional support for both the healers and the Meteor Golems as they all work around. So we can also use our Overgrowth spells to minimize a lot of damage, let's say against the Town Hall or other key threats. Overall, this is just going to be a fairly slow attack where we want to keep as many of the Meteor Golems alive and keep them working throughout the base. We also have the Eternal Tome in order to protect all of our troops, where we can also use an additional Overgrowth spell on the back end to prevent too much damage. This is why we also have free spells to minimize a lot more damage against defenses, and we have a Revive spell for the Dragon Duke specifically. Otherwise, you can use your other hero abilities like the Barbarian Kings, and otherwise you should be able to completely dominate bases with the Meteor Golems. They have enough HP, and so long as you control their pathing, they should very easily be able to crush bases here at Town Hall 17. Just make sure that you use your free spells over defenses that can do a lot of damage, and you should be perfectly fine to get a 3-star. As for number 4, we have the Fireball Super Minion strategy. This can be a fairly chaotic strategy, but is quite fun and very interesting to use. We're going to be starting off though with the Grand Warden. His job is to just send in a fairly quick fireball. We don't need to go for anything particularly crazy or anything, but we do want to make sure that we're clearing out a bit of a funnel to actually control our Barbarian King and Archer Queen into the base. This is why the fireball in this case is going in to clear the Scattershot compartment, being able to clear plenty of value while the Warden is kind of working himself around the outside the base. We can use a few super minions, or at least one super minion, to control the pathing of the Warden so he goes in the right direction in terms of clearing enough buildings to set up a funnel. The goal here is in order to make sure that your heroes can actually go into the base. This is why we're going to use a recall spell to get him back and place him elsewhere so he can kind of walk safely in an area where he's not going to take a lot of damage, which is why we have furnaces to provide support for him. Otherwise, our next goal is to remove the core of the base. This is why the Giant Arrow, alongside 3 Earthquake spells and the Rocket Backpack, is extremely effective, as we can clear the entire core, meaning that the Warden is going to be completely safe. Where we then have the Archer Queen, Barbarian King, and Dragon Duke all going in towards the core of the base. This is where you'll want to likely use super minions to just provide support as they clear buildings and defenses. You do not have to spam them, that you don't want to spam them. You want to make sure that you are surgically placing them around the base, similar to rocket balloons, to control your heroes in. This also means you can take a druid, and any spells like freeze or totem are really good at doing this. You do have an invisibility as well, but ideally you want to make sure that you are minimizing a lot of the damage, and you can really use any of your hero abilities around this time. But just with your super minions, you want to use them very sparingly throughout the base, so you're able to clear plenty of key threats from a safe distance and use any of your rocket balloons in the same fashion. Otherwise, just think of fireball rocket balloons, but a little bit more chaotic, but definitely not as difficult. It's definitely a very fun and simple strategy. You just need to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing with each portion to get a 3-star. With number 3, we have the Zap Throwers. This is a very powerful strategy still, especially with how good the Rocket Backpack and the Dragon Duke are. We're going to go ahead and start off with the Angry spell to get the Duke a little bit deeper into the base, not so he focuses on defenses or anything, in order to make sure that we're able to clear something like the CC in this case, while also then using the Zap Quake to clear out the Monolith and Spell Tower. This allows us to have a lot better value as we work around the base with our throwers. So we do want to cut off the funnel for them with some super barbarians, so we can actually work into the base with our Grand Warden, providing some good buffs for both the throwers and healers. We can use an Ice Golem to protect them as they start working in, and we even have the Archer Queen with some druids in order to provide enough support for her and the action figure as they set up funneling on the other side. We have the log launcher to also open walls, but if there is an invisibility spell tower, this allows that invisibility spell tower to also go off, allowing us to have a lot more coverage against those type of spell towers. Otherwise, you just want to be really patient, as you have spells in order to minimize a lot of damage, like the totem spells in order to redirect a lot of that damage away, and we even have the Barbarian King with his giant gauntlet and stick horse in order to clear key threats and allow you to clear the back end of the base while the throwers are in the core completely mowing it down. We even have a Super Yeti to provide additional tanking and support alongside the Electromites. Otherwise, so long as you can kind of get through a lot of the core of the base, you should be able to crush it the rest of it with the throwers, the Barbarian King, who will still be a fairly tanky menace that's going for defenses, and is otherwise a very strong strategy so long as you can get your throwers in to completely decimate the core. As for number 2, we have the Super Bowler Smash. This is still one of the strongest armies, especially thanks to how good the Torch is with Super Bowlers, but also how good the Queen Charge setup is. We're going to go ahead and start this up with the Queen Charge by making sure to use balloons to scout out for Seeking Air Mines early, while also having an Ice Golem to protect the Archer Queen. This is where we can then use our invisibility spells in order to keep her away from too much damage, and a Rage spell to power up the healers and her own damage in order to do significant damage to threats while keeping her relatively topped off. Otherwise, we just want to continue to use our invisibility spells to keep her protected. And so long as we can clear out a funnel fairly quick, once a few buildings have gone down, we can recall her back to be used within the army. This is a really great setup, so we can use a troop like a Valkyrie to cut off the funnel for our main push. We can even use a baby dragon on the other side to cut off the funnel, so we have the Barbarian King working around the base on the outside. This is why we then have the Super Bowlers working in with the Apprentice Warden, the recalled Archer Queen, and the Grand Warden. As we continue to work around the base though, we can use spells like Totem to redirect a lot of that damage away from our main push, while the Barbarian King is clearing out buildings on the outside. We even have a few balloons to scout out for traps for the Skywagon, so we're able to actually get that in to provide support for our own healers, alongside offering some additional troops in the process. We even have the Dragon Duke over on the back end to also provide support as these Super Bowlers work through the base with the Heroic Torch, and underneath rage spells, they're going to do massive damage. This is just going to allow everything to kind of work through the core, clear everything like it's nothing, and then obviously having the Duke on the back end with his Stun Blaster to clear out defenses and prevent a lot of damage on your own Super Bowlers, allowing for a lot easier of a time to get through the entire rest of the base. Just make sure you bring some troops for cleanup, like a few wizards, and for the most part, you should be completely fine. This is a very powerful strategy, and so long as you're able to get through the core with the Super Bowlers, you should be able to dominate most bases with this. And at number 1, we have none other than Hydra. This is by far the best attack, especially with how strong Dragon and Dragon Riders are. We want to start this off by using the Dragon Duke and the Queen to snipe air defenses. So with the Rocket Backpack, we can use that to clear maybe 1 or 2 air defenses, and do the same thing with the Giant Arrow. They're able to clear plenty of defenses, allowing for them to also set up funneling for the Hydra to actually work in. We also have an Ice Hound that can provide additional support thanks to its death freeze, and when there's no other air defenses left, it will focus on defenses, making it a lot easier for you to keep your dragons and dragon riders alive as they work around the base. You should though use an early Eternal Tome and Healing Tome to protect everything as they start to work into the core of the base, especially if there are rage spell tower compartments around. Otherwise, you just want to make sure that you use Overgrowth to control the pathing of most of your dragons and dragon riders as they continue to work around. The Dark Orb can be used on the Minion Prince in order to slow down defenses, while the Meteor Staff provides some nice additional support. Otherwise, just make sure that you do refresh the Overgrowth whenever, especially on something like a Fire Spitter or something, and so long as you do that and use your tome spells effectively and surgically throughout, you should be completely fine. You even have free spells to provide support with minimal damage on defenses, so that way you can actually very easily move through with your dragons and dragon riders while keeping most of them alive. This is why this is just a really strong attack, and you can even take the Lava Loon Puppet instead if you want to crush bases quite easily with this strategy. Hopefully, you'll have some form of success with these, especially after the balance changes released, making some of them a little bit stronger here, especially at Town Hall 17. However, if you do want to try a very unorthodox strategy that's actually quite fun, make sure to check out my Thrower Firemite clone strategy guide right here, but YouTube says you might prefer this one instead.